and welcome to the third edition of No Such Thing as the News, coming to you from up the creek in Greenwich, London. My name is Dan Schreiber, and I'm sitting here with Anna Ptaszynski, Andrew Hunter-Murray, and James Harkin. Each week, we'll be taking a look at the most interesting things that we found in the news of the last 7 days. For example, you might not have known this, that the bus Labour uses in the EU referendum campaign was the same bus used on tour by S Club 7. Yeah. In the interest of balance, we should also tell you that last week, the Vote Leave battle bus got a parking ticket in Harrogate. OK, let's begin. And in no particular order, here we go. Starting with my fact. My fact this week is that the reason Winston Churchill looks so grumpy on the new £5 note is because someone's taken away his cigar. So, they've just this week, the Bank of England released the new £5 note that we will be using. And the photo that you'll see on it, the image that they use, is of Winston Churchill, and it's taken from a photo from 1941. It's the very famous photo of Winston Churchill. It was by Yusuf Karsh. And basically, the way that the photo happened is that Yusuf only got a few minutes with Winston Churchill. He came into the room, he started smoking a cigar. He was holding it during the photo. The photographer, Yusuf, said, "Do you mind if we lose the cigar?" And he said, "Mm-mm." And so, Yusuf went just to tinker with a few things in the photo, and then he just took the cigar. He just took it out of his mouth, quickly went back, and the look on his face was, "Are you kidding me?" And he pressed click, and that's how we have the photo. It's absolutely true. So that's why. So now we just have a pissed-off-looking Winston Churchill on all the £5 notes, and that's one of the most used photographs of Churchill, definitely, but apparently of any politician generally.
So it's a bit controversial, this new note, because it's made out of kind of a plasticky substance.
Yeah.
Do you know how they make these notes?
No.
It's amazing. So what? That's it. No, it's made out of a thing called biaxially oriented polypropylene, and it's also known as BOP. OK? And what they do, this is incredible, they make a bubble the size of a 4-storey building. OK? They have this massive bubble, and then it just kind of collapses on itself due to, like, the heat or whatever, and then it's a really, really, really thin film, and it's that film which they can use to make the notes.
Whoa!
That's amazing.
One 4-storey building per note?
Yeah, they haven't come out yet, but they're enormous.
Get bigger wallets.
Yeah.
No, they're actually a bit smaller, aren't they? I think they're 15% smaller.
Yeah.
And I remember earlier this year I worked out how many fivers you could get into a briefcase.
How is your defence case going?
Well, it turns out it's about £60,000 worth of fivers you can get into a briefcase. And with the new fivers, it'll be about 70,000.
Good.
So, good news.
Good news for crime. Do you know a few other things that they make using this polypropylene substance?
No.
So, other things it can be used for is thermal underwear, the hinges on Tic Tac box lids.
Really?
Yeah, the stickers on Rubik's Cubes. Only the stickers, though. And some parts of Tenerife Cathedral.
So if you ever forget to bring a change of underwear to your friend's house if you're staying overnight, then you could just sew some £5 notes together. Is that what we're saying?
That is lavish.
They used to... American money is made of linen, isn't it? Cotton and linen, a combination of the two. And I think they used to repair American notes up until the 19th century by just sewing them back together when they tore.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
If you have a note that gets torn up, there is a Bank of England service called the Mutilated Notes Service. And this is, I didn't know this happened, but if you put it in the washing machine, for example, you can send it off to them and they test it and they look at the serial numbers and they see whether they think it's probably actually a tenner. And last year they replaced about 22,000 notes. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Of which 5,364 were chewed/eaten. So you can, even if the dog has had it for a bit, you can send it off and get a new one back. This is quite cool. Do you know what they used to do with banknotes that weren't fit anymore? So if you sent one off to them and they said this is too chewed up or whatever, the banknotes were incinerated and then the heat was used to heat the Bank of England site in Debden. How cool is that?
Oh, that is
Wow.
good.
Yeah.
God, imagine being known that you were being burned so that other versions of yourself could live on. Is that nice or horrible?
How is the sci-fi novel coming on?
Going back to the new money that we're going to be getting in this country, so there's a picture of Jane Austen that's going to be on the £10 notes, which is coming out in September next year, I think. And it's maybe a picture of Jane Austen, but it's maybe not a picture of Jane Austen, because we have one picture that was drawn at the time, and that was drawn by her sister Cassandra, and they've decided that it's not an attractive enough picture of her, that one that we've got. So instead they've used an engraving of Jane Austen that was drawn 50 years later, I think, which is much prettier, isn't it?
Well, so Jane Austen's sister drew this picture. She actually drew 2 pictures of Jane Austen in her lifetime, and the first one was a completed picture, so that could have been amazing. Unfortunately, the picture was of her facing the other way, looking. So we know what the back of her head looks like. And the second picture was unfinished, but relatives at the time said that it was hideously unlike her. So I think Cassandra just wasn't the best of artists.
She really hated her sister. It's just she's got a really kind of pissed-off look on her face.
A while ago, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe started upping the amount of money that they have. So the highest amount that we have in this country is a £50 note. Australia, it's a $100 note. So the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe published this, which is $100 trillion. But they've now become so popular that each of these are worth about £40 online. So they become a collector's item. So this has had an inflation of something like 1,500% because suddenly it's a collector's item. Just to put into perspective how much this was meant to be, I have here as well another note from the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe for 1 cent. 1 cent to 100 trillion. I don't know how much it's like, OK, so that's going to be 100 trillion and 1 penny. And you're like, damn it.
I've only got that in cents.
Maybe
but that's amazing.
99,999,999,999,999
There's your change.
Thank you, sir.
OK, it is time to move on to fact number 2, and that is Andrew Hunter Murray.
My fact is that at its opening ceremony this week, the world's longest tunnel was ceremonially blessed by a priest and then ceremonially not blessed by an atheist. So, if you haven't seen it, this is a new tunnel. It's the world's longest rail tunnel. It's called the Gotthard Base Tunnel, and it goes through the Alps, under the Alps specifically. Obviously, it doesn't go over the Alps. They had this opening ceremony where they had a lot of people blessing it. So they had a Catholic priest, they had a Protestant minister, they had a rabbi, and they had an imam who all did the blessings. And they also had an atheist there, just to not pray for anybody or anyone. I have a photo of the blessing, so this is what it looked like. You see these 5 people standing here in the tunnel, and one of those 5 has no real function. Only kidding! 4 of them have no real function. Anyway, yeah. So, but they've had this. It's an amazing tunnel, and they've had an incredible.
It was
fiesta.
a ridiculous ceremony, wasn't it? It was to rival all Olympic opening ceremonies. So it's confusing when I started looking into this, and the first BBC article I opened, which was just about the opening ceremony, had a warning at the top saying contains nudity. Not the opening, but it does. Yeah, there was a topless gymnast.
You can see even in the videos that the people in the room were just like, what is going on? It was just the most awkward. I think they just expected a ribbon to be cut or something like that. And suddenly people wearing workers' outfits for construction started walking through. And then so nudity started coming out. There were people dressed as animals.
Yeah, it was absolutely bizarre. It was great, though. It was really exciting. And
Yeah.
this is a cool tunnel. So although we've all missed the opening ceremony, guys, don't worry, because this weekend there's a festival happening. I know. So they anticipate about 100,000 people are going to go to the festival this weekend. And the stuff on display, the entertainments that they played on, sound amazing. They say there's going to be a train simulator. You get the chance to view the maintenance and intervention centres. You get to hear specialists telling you about the fire and rescue train.
Amazing.
There's going to be live Swiss watchmaking. A 200 square metre display about freight transport. And also, on the website, it's trying to zhuzh it up a bit, so it says, a festival without music would be like a Gotthard base tunnel without trains.
Well, the fun doesn't stop with the festival, because I went onto a website that was run by them, that they were promoting all things that you could do in anticipation and the excitement of getting ready for the opening of the tunnel. And what they did was they created and released a game that you can play, which you can download onto your phone, it's an app that you can download. And the idea is that you can yourself dig the longest tunnel in the world. So I'm playing it at the moment, and it's just this big wall, and you start tapping the screen, and it starts digging into the tunnel. And so to dig forward, you have to tap, and each finger tap goes 1 millimeter into the tunnel, and you complete it when you've done 57 million taps. So the idea was the winner of this game, the top 10 or 15 winners, would then get to ride on the very first inaugural train ride that it made just the other day.
You probably know them because they just have a stub of a finger.
But it's an amazing achievement. So the Gotthard base tunnel was conceived back in the 1940s, I believe it was, and they didn't start construction on it until the 90s. So it's been 17 years of going through this mountain.
They're huge, aren't they, the boring machines?
Yes.
So I know the ones that dug the Channel Tunnel were the length of 2 football pitches or something. They're essentially movable factories that drill through, and I think these ones are a similar size. About
They're longer.
900 metres long or something?
400 metres long.
Oh, I saw 2 together.
We need to move on, guys. Do you have anything more before we do?
Can I show you a picture of a really cool tunnel?
Yes.
Which...
Of course.
I assume that's why everyone came tonight. So this is a tunnel in Norway. It's the Lærdal Tunnel, and the design is very cool. So this is a part of it, and what it does is, because it's so long, there was a concern that drivers would get bored in it and they'd start falling asleep, and so they have 3 huge caverns along the way which simulate kind of daylight, and it looks kind of like sunrise, right? So they've tried to make it so they've got this kind of yellow glowing lighting at the bottom, and then they've got blue lighting at the top as if the sun's just rising on a nice sunny day. And they deliberately put bends in the road so that you keep your attention. So you could just have a straight road, but you'd pass out. So they make the road bend. And they have stuff there to keep drivers entertained as they're driving through.
That's really interesting, them putting bends into tunnels, because so we are recording in Greenwich in London, and not far away from us is the Blackwall Tunnel. Do you know why there's a bend in that tunnel? This is so interesting. There's a bend in the tunnel because when it was originally built, it was used to have horse carriages go through. And the idea was if horses see light at the end of the tunnel, they'll bolt for it. So the idea was put a bend in the tunnel, at least we can get about halfway through before the horses see it and cause chaos. So the original reason that there are bends in tunnels is that so you don't break the speed limit. I guess, I don't know if there was a speed limit with horses.
So when horses tell each other that kind of little thing, like you've had a hard week and they say there's a light at the end of the tunnel, they go, what?
Okay, so we're halfway through the show, and it's time to look at the stories that you've sent in to us via emails and social media. Starting with you, James.
OK, I like this from @IanWolf, and he said that this week it has been discovered that Tutankhamun had a dagger that came from outer space.
Cool.
What? That's good, isn't it? And apparently the iron in it came from a meteorite.
He was buried with so much stuff, wasn't he? Every oldest version of anything you find, Tutankhamun had a set. He had a set of the oldest socks, I think.
So he had socks, and also he wore sandals. So as far as we know,
he was British.
He was a socks and sandals guy. OK, Anna, what were you sent in?
So this is a tweet from Catherine Adams, and she sent in that the Ramsgate inshore lifeboat scrambled this week into the sea near Dover to rescue a leather sofa.
Did they still bring it out, or...?
No, they drowned it.
What? What about all the change? Idiot.
OK, and Andy, what were you sent?
I was sent this by Joe Littrell. It's that a 24-year-old man has been given a $500 fine and 75 hours of community service after throwing a live 3.5-foot-long alligator through the window of a Wendy's drive-thru in Florida.
What? Wow.
Yeah.
OK, shall we move on?
Yeah.
OK, it is time to move on to fact number 3, and that is Anna Ptaszynski.
My fact this week is that the judge who just ruled that all UK tobacco packets have to be green is called Mr. Green. And I'm not saying he had vested interests, but it does seem suspicious. This is sort of a fact about World No Tobacco Day, which was this week. It's on May the 31st every year. I'm sure everyone's celebrated by not smoking. And we've recently been told that plain packaging is going to be released in the UK. So this was, I think, on May the 19th that this ruling went through. And this was Mr. Justice Green, who ruled that all tobacco packaging is going to be plain and is going to be this muddy green colour, and 4 tobacco companies challenged the UK government, who was saying that this has to be the case because they said it would damage their brands. And he said that that was nonsense, and he rejected the challenge. And, yeah, we're going to get green tobacco packets, but not a very nice colour green. That's kind of the point, is that it's sort of a disgusting colour green. So I'm going to show it to you, because I actually think there might be a bit of debate as to whether it's green or brown. So if anyone lives in Australia, I think they have these already, and in other parts of the world. But they did a study on this colour, and it's the colour that people find most revolting.
It's been a big week for a lot of no smoking news, I found.
Okay.
Yeah, I looked online, and there's a lot of stuff. So one bit of big news is in North Korea, Kim Jong-Un has quit smoking. And I've got a picture here of him not smoking.
And look how happy he is.
And he's trying to get all of North Korea to quit smoking as well. It's their new thing. They've put out an announcement saying that they're going to set up new facilities and they're going to hand out nicotine patches. And they say that
arrest anyone who smokes.
That reminds me. Did anyone see this week about the North Korean Facebook? Yeah, which is supposed to be like a thing that you definitely can't break into or anything, but there was just a student in Scotland who decided to try and log in with admin and password. And sure enough, he managed to get in, and he was an admin, and he managed to kind of delete people's profiles, and he could check all the advertising, and he could censor certain words if he wanted to. So this hacker managed to get in there and find out in the kind of metadata the official name of their version of Facebook, which is Best Korea's Social Network.
The slogan is, there's Best Korea and there's the rest Korea.
Actually, on Eastern smoking news, so China's been making some moves to reduce smoking levels. They're going to ban smoking in public places, except for restaurants, bars, hotels, and airports, which are allowed to set up smoking areas, and you can also smoke in your workplace and inside individual offices. But aside from that, they're going to ban smoking. But they have come a long way. So in 2009, the Chinese government actually encouraged people to smoke. So this was the Hubei local government, so in the Hubei province of China, and it was during recession, and they wanted to boost the economy with cigarette tax. And so they made officials, so like schools, government employees, buy loads of cigarettes.
Schools?
So teachers had to buy them.
Right, behind the bike sheds now. Just on this Australian dark green new packaging colour that we've got. So it's a technical colour. It's actually a Pantone colour. It's Pantone 448C. They hired a market research agency, to get something disgusting.
I read a investigation that Vice magazine did recently asking people what they thought of the colour, and the first person they asked was this guy called Tom, who was 22, and they said, what does this colour remind you of? And he said, gunge sewer slime. It reminds me of this overflowing drain around the back of my house. In some ways, it's quite a nice colour. If it worked well in the space, I'd consider using it to decorate a bathroom or a kitchenette.
One good thing for stopping people from smoking in public areas is this little guy. So, can you see him? Wow, oh, that's nice, isn't it? This is in the town of Augsburg in Germany, and he's a little guy. He rolls around and he looks kind of sad, and then he kind of notices when people are smoking, and he has a little sign saying, this area is non-smoking, or please follow me towards a non-smoking zone.
I don't smoke, but I would kick his head in.
And what this reminded me of is a study at Georgia Tech. And what they did was they simulated a fire in a room. And there was a few rooms, actually, and one of the rooms appeared to be on fire. There was smoke coming out of it, and the alarm went off and people had to leave. And there was a door that said, fire exit, and everyone just went out the fire exit. And then they did it again with a little robot that said on it, emergency guide robot. And that emergency guide robot took people into the room that was obviously on fire, right? Even though there was a door that said emergency exit right next to them, and 26 out of 30 people followed the robot into the room that was obviously on fire.
Wow. I mean, I think I might have done.
Would you? Well, just to kick his head in.
Don't you tell me not to burn to death.
OK, it is time for our final fact of the show, and that is James Harkin.
OK, my fact this week is that cicadas who have lived underground in West Virginia for 17 years have finally emerged, only to be immediately eaten as an ice cream topping. They're called prime number cicadas, and they have a life cycle where they kind of live underground for a prime number of years. So they live underground for 17 years, and then they come up, and then they go back underground again for 17 more years, and then they come back up again. And the reason that is say you came up every 6 years and you had animals that bred every 2 years, then every 3 generations they would find you and eat you. But if you come up every 17 years, then the animals who breed every 3 years would actually see you only every 51 years, and they wouldn't rely on you for food.
But so they're really disgusting in their look. The idea of that on ice cream feels to be...
Yeah.
Well, people do love to eat them, though. But even a woman who wrote the best-selling cicada recipe book there is, and it's an entomologist called... That's hot competition, by the way. An entomologist called Jenna Jadin. She does open the book by saying that the University of Maryland and cicada interest groups do not advocate eating cicadas without first consulting your doctors.
Oh, really?
But even so, people eat them. And...
Well, I have a picture of some cicada biscuits, or cookies as they call them. This is what they look like. OK. Thank you to Rising Creek Bakery in Pennsylvania for giving us this.
But not thank you to Rising Creek Bakery for making them.
So in Australia, from about 2004, they were selling locusts, and they've started doing it in New Zealand as well, but they've rebranded it, just in case you don't want to eat locust, they've rebranded it Sky Prawns. So you can have Sky Prawns.
Do you know how you catch a cicada?
No.
You wait for the male to sex, because basically the reason they come up is to have sex and then die. And that's... I wrote down this sentence about them. They don't bite, they just sing and scream as they look for sex before dying, which is what they do. But
that's your Tinder profile, isn't it?
Yeah, but you can catch them if you are quick enough in your response. If you hear a male sing and you snap your fingers within 100 milliseconds, it'll fly over and try and have sex with you. Top tip there.
Tinder hasn't worked out for you then. Because, there are problems sometimes with other machinery sounding like the male cicadas, which are the ones that make the noise, and female cicadas try to mate with it. So I think lawnmowers particularly are flooded with female cicadas trying to mate with them because of the noise they make.
But it's a very easy and convenient way of crunching them up into the ice cream, so it's good.
Cicadas do something really interesting when they have sex, which is that a male and female will have sex.
They sob gently afterwards.
All I have left now is death.
No, what they'll do is they'll have sex, and then, in a lot of cases, the male will just put a plug into the female so that she doesn't have sex with anyone else. And also, they have STIs. It's a fungus that makes their butt drop off, and... But so they can often...
Can you imagine if that transferred to humans?
So basically it's a fungus that gets into their backside and it takes it down.
Can they tell if they're having sex with a cicada that doesn't have a bum? Is that how you know?
I haven't asked.
Do they have public information campaigns where there's just a picture of a cicada with no bum and a big line through it? While we're at that end of the cicada, have you heard of cicada rain?
No.
So it's a thing that happens. They basically, when they hatch, they spend all their time underground feeding on trees' roots. That's how they survive for 17 years. And they take on a lot of water. When they hatch, they're sitting all over trees and they're constantly excreting. So a lot of entomologists say that you have to take an umbrella, really, because otherwise you will just be constantly urinated on by cicadas.
Really?
The Cicada Mania website says of cicada rain, which is also known as honeydew, by the way, which is misleadingly appealing.
Try some sky prawn honeydew. In fact, no one was buying locust pods.
So the website also says, be sure to wear a hat or use an umbrella when walking under trees if that sort of thing bothers you. Insects weeing on you.
I've got one last fact before we go, which is that 17 years ago, these cicada started, they were born and started their 17-year cycle, which means that they started at exactly the same time as the building of the Gotthard base tunnel.
No.
So both are made and going. So that's it. That's all of our facts. Just time to share with you 4 stories that we didn't have time to cover, and we'll start with you, Andy.
This is from Business Insider. It is that the US Securities and Exchange Commission has arrested a former director of Barclays and charged him with fraud for regularly paying his plumber in illicit tips about forthcoming mergers and acquisitions.
OK, Anna?
This is from the online magazine Science News, and it is the story this week that physicists have discovered that Schrodinger's cat is not only alive and dead at the same time, it is also in 2 different boxes at once.
OK, my fact is from MSN News. You should not...
That is exactly the right reaction to that.
Some of us still use it. You should not use ketchup on your hot dog when over the age of 18. And that's according to a new ruling from the US National Hot Dog and Sausage Council. There you go. And finally, James.
OK, mine is an official US Senate press release, and it is that Arizona Senator Jeff Flake has released a report detailing what he considers wasteful US government research. Projects include $5 million spent on finding out whether drunk birds slur when they sing. $3.9 million on what makes goldfish feel sexy. And $331,000 trying to answer the question, how long does it take to pee like a racehorse?
That's all the time we have, and now over to Jane Hill in the studio.
Gotthard sounds a bit like got hard.
I mean... OK, that's it. We'll see you again next week with another batch of facts on the stories of the week. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.